So, for one to assume or regain control of one's energetic and physical vessel, and therein one's reality and one's own destiny and fate, one must always be consciously responsive to external stimulus and never unconsciously reactive. When one is unconsciously reactive, one's actions, thoughts, and conscious state will always be predicated by one's environment and the external forces whom or which comprise one's environment and circumstance. So whether you are in Manhattan Beach in LA, living a life of excess, material affluence, and addiction to the mundane, or 6 months into a 24-hour lockdown in the back of a state or federal penitentiary, as long as your environment and circumstance dictates and defines your emotional state or your state of consciousness, and therein the limitations of your perception, awareness, and experience of reality, you will remain without power and possibility and will always be at the mercy of the world around you, your environment and circumstance, and will remain forever cut off, disconnected, unperceptive, and unable to experience the very thing in which one is actually seeking in civilized man's own cyclical, self-destructive, never-ending search for attainment, and will forever be working and slaving to pursue or attain the level of supposed tangible control and the level of physical material wealth, comfort, affluence, the level of external social monetary status to attain the environment, circumstances, and experiences contained in those circumstances and environments that you believe will provide you the external stimulus and external experiences that will make you feel a certain type of way or make you be a certain type of way that with or without you are incapable of generating or ascertaining from within. Why do you think civilized man seeks money, affluence, external pleasure, drugs, beauty, fame, a woman to have, a man to have, or acknowledgement of self from others? It is simply because civilized man is subconsciously trying to pursue the environment in which he believes will give him the experiences and stimulus in which will cause him to feel a certain type of way or be a certain type of way that he is currently incapable of being or feeling. Is this not so? As long as civilized man remains disconnected from self, unwhole, living life unconsciously from a place of unbalance, only perceptive and receptive to the limited experiences of the physical world and its environments and circumstances, led by the impulses of his desires, civilized man will always seek what they are most without. If one is able to live life fully conscious and fully aware through each moment of each day, not of the mind, but of pure consciousness, pure feeling, and pure will, without the limitations of awareness in which fractalized emotional states create, not living life as a slave to one's perceived impulses, but instead experiencing life from the full scope of awareness, experience, and potential provided by one's achieved and maintained state of tlajohualistli, or internal balance, one's nourishing center point, one remains in a meditative or flow state, and her life is her prayer. This is how our ancestors lived. This was the original instructions in our sacred way of being. You see, we're all conscious co-creators of this reality here in Tamawanchan. We're all either unconsciously or consciously creating and prescribing stimulus and experiences for one another to experience together as circumstance, environment, and dynamic here in Tamawanchan. Now that you are aware of this relative, now that you are aware of your responsibility and involvement in the co-creation of the world as it is, as you see it, what will you now consciously create from this moment on? What will your masterpiece, your manifestation be? Whatever it may be, I can tell you this much. It will be a direct reflection of the current state of your soul and a bladed expression of your state of consciousness currently. So let us work to perfect the soul so that one's manifestations daily continue to reach new heights of wholesome, beautiful, deep, and healing experiences and the relationships for and with all shapes, forms, articulations, degrees, angles, poles, and expressions of consciousness, from the most seemingly irrelevant to the most apparently important, from the cells in your body to the plants and animals, to the children, women, and men whom fill this plane or planet, to this planet herself. When you understand this most basic insight in understanding, any being may understand about life on the quantum, physical, ecological, biological, energetic, or any other level, which is that we are all bound, from the grass you stand on, to the rain that falls upon your face, to the bird you hear singing in the morning, to the stray dogs wandering and barking all night in the streets in the evening. The perceived ally, the perceived opposition, are all bound to either consciously or unconsciously provide the particular algorithm of experiences in which aid one another in the distillation and blossom of one's soul that lead to reaching one's incarnative full soul potential. And that the whole of nature and life itself, from the physical to the metaphysical, is a unified system of interdependent variables, each a cause and reaction, existing only as a concentrated whole or not at all. That this sacred balance, this symbiotic and interdependent basis of nature and life that exists, is the very foundation of life, from the micro to the macrocosm, from the physical to the metaphysical. You are now entering an understanding that is the very basis of the Chichimechayot, the very basis of all pre-civilization, indigenous, aboriginal, or original, or natural philosophy, society, spirituality, existence, and tradition. And you are now beginning to become illuminated to the fundamental truth in which quantified and defined the very nature of how we related to ourselves, each other, and every other perceived angle, pole, and pronunciation of consciousness in their many gross or complex shapes and forms that made up the whole of our natural, physical, and spiritual environments.